reasonably normal life, this is the familiar image of the Salvation Army. And yet behind it lies a very different world. A world where salvation, army style, can make all the difference to the lives of a surprising variety of people.
Well, we're talking to Colonel Bramwell Pratt, and Colonel Pratt, of course, is most interested in the Missing Persons Bureau.
I would say that in this department we are made aware of a tremendous lot of heartache and distress in the lives of so many, many people. Every day on my desk there comes a pile of letters from all parts of the world, telephone calls, people call in person into our headquarters, and they are really distressed people.
Salvation Army, good afternoon. Can we help you?
When someone of their family goes missing, it really does bring a very tragic situation for them, and we're made aware of it. On this building we have a staff of 25 caseworkers, researchers, who all combine together, making a marvellous team, tracking people down and carrying out the whole work. We handle something like 5,000 inquiries a year, of which 70% are located.
Well, let's just hear some of the other stories that stand out in your mind, the
Yes.
heartwarming stuff.
Well, a young man called Derek had been in hospital as a baby for quite a time, and then he was fostered and lost all touch with any family whatsoever. He'd heard that he had a sister. Could the Salvation Army possibly find her? Well, we got to work on that, and we eventually traced the sister. She was absolutely over the moon when she discovered that she had a brother who was asking for her. She's called Pauline.
So I said, right, I'm ready. Where does he live? Give me his address. Expecting him to say London. Of course, they said Northampton. I just went to pieces. I couldn't believe it because I live here. And when he actually gave me the address, I found out that Derek lived just merely across the road, exactly 1 mile actually, on the next estate. Apparently we've got the same doctor who mentioned to Derek that she was my doctor. We've got the same dentist. We shop at the same shopping centre. So there was this stranger.
That's right.
Your sister. Would you have recognised her?
No, no. I'd never seen her at all, not a photo, nothing.
What about the children? How does it feel to have all these extra cousins?
Lovely.
Lovely. Why is it lovely?
They get more presents.
Simply wonderful.
That's amazing,
that they've lived
isn't it?
so close together without knowing each other.
Mm.
Yes.
I often think, though, that it's the young people who leave.
Well, one's got to admit this is perhaps the most difficult area of all inquiries that you're ever asked to handle. So many young people come from the provinces. Mainly they have no employment. They hope that they will come to London and find a happier way of living, but unfortunately it doesn't always work out like that. And many of them are inveigled into all sorts of ways of life never dreamt about. I suppose the truth is that they're too ashamed to write home to parents to let them know what has happened. When we do find them, we say to a young man or a young woman, be assured we're not going to reveal where you are, but at least will you allow us to put you in touch with them and say you are safe and well.
So you act as the go-between.
So we act
really.
as the go-between in the redirection of correspondence, and that's a very effective means of keeping the link and building a bridge of reconciliation.
Colonel Bramwell Pratt, thank you very much.
Thank you very much
Bye-bye.
indeed. Goodbye.
And if she would come back, we would even take her back to our place for one night and then try to get her on somewhere the next day. She wouldn't come a little while ago. We offered her, or just a few minutes ago.
I wonder if we can have a quick word with her, like, you know, because I've never seen her like this before. Normally she's, well, she's full of flying spirit, you know, especially with us.
Yes. Now, what do you want me to do? Yes, when? Yes, fine. Her legs are very bad. She's crying tonight, you know. Okay, I'll phone back in about 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes. Okay? Salvation Army, yes. Okay, bye. I'm trying to be out during the night hours to be available for people in need, with a particular eye for young people who might be homeless in the area. We might meet men and women with drink problems. You might meet people who've come down to London looking for work and are homeless, youngsters who've run away from home, a woman perhaps who's run away from home, women with psychiatric problems, things like that. Nobody else in quite the same way covers this area at night.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
What's your name?
Andy.
Right. And we're going to take Tracy back
Yes, sure.
with us as well.
Same age as me, is she?
About.
Rachel, isn't it a bit risky for a young girl to be wandering around late at night in a place like Euston Station?
Yes, but when we're going out looking for somebody. You don't think of any risk-taking.
But you're going up to young men and offering them a bed for the night.
I never come out there with it quite as directly as that.
So how come you ended up at Euston Station tonight?
Thought it'd be the best place to stay. You know, it'd be open all night. I knew that, so I went down.
Andy had been on the station for a while. You're never sure who's in need and who isn't, because people have to wait a long time for trains at night, and a lot of people look very depressed.
What sort of things did you think you'd find in London?
I don't know, really. You know, I just suppose it's a capital. You know, there's plenty people like me down in Ellsbury feel the same, you know, just want to get away from it all.
He'd stayed one night in Centre Point and a few more nights in a large men's hostel, and he'd had 2 nights on the street, and he'd only been down in London a week.
Did you hope that they might be able to offer you a bed for the night?
I don't hope for anything, actually, you know. You can't hope for anything, because nothing comes easy. I've learnt that, you know. Learnt that the hard way.
We'd talk to Andy in the morning, and he may wish to go to bed and breakfast or to make his own arrangements, or there are several projects for young people, and specifically the 259 project at Blackfriars.
I thought we could do a little exercise. It's the one there entitled Surviving on Social Security. Someone can take one and get a pen as well. The idea is that when you're living in your own flat, which is what you're all hoping to do eventually, if you're unemployed, you'll be getting about £26.50 to live on if it's on supplementary benefit, okay?
The aim of the project is really to give these young people an opportunity to return to normal society, to try and give them some skills that will help them in the future, and to get them away from falling into the trap of becoming institutionalised. They come down to London seeking for work, but very quickly, not knowing the scene in London, can very quickly get involved in petty crime, homosexuality, and many other problems that are rife within the West End. Drug addiction is another problem, and alcoholism amongst young people is not uncommon.
Can I just explain the point of this exercise? At the moment, because we're all living in a hostel, and your evening meals are being provided, and your breakfast food being provided, and your bills are being paid, okay? So at the moment, the money you get cash in hand, you've just got to spend on anything you want. The situation when you move into your own flat, however, is that your money's got to last. If you run out after a day, then you're not going to have food for the next 6 days. Eventually they're going to cut off your electricity, they're going to cut off your gas.
I worked out if I stopped smoking and gave up drinking, miss Coronation Street for the rest of my life, and if I just brought food and paid £4.50 out towards bills, I should be all right because I'll have £7 left over.
One young person will be chosen each day to go to the shops and to buy a meal for himself.
So give us another Timmy Curry beans.
Another one?
Yeah. He's given £1.50, and he has to budget that as he goes round the shops, come back to the centre and cook the meal and present it.
They teach you how to budget money and not to buy unnecessary things like, you know, cigarettes and all that, you know. It's a friendly neighbourhood, you know. You live as if you're brothers together, living together, you know, trying to cope with each other.
There's sort of getting back into a regular routine, which is quite good. I mean, sometimes 9 o'clock in the morning is a bit heavy, but you get used to it, and you have a certain standard to yourself which you make. So if I do ever get a job, I won't have any problems getting up in the morning.
How rough were things for you before you came here?
And I came down to London, and I said, oh yeah, I'm going to go out and get a job, I'm going to do this and do that, and it just didn't happen. I started getting heavily involved with drugs and drink and everything, because it was the only way out.
Do you see this as a last chance, a fresh start?
Yes, I do see it as a last chance, because I was really down before, so I'd like to get a job, but if, it seems to be more important to me to have to go to college, so I'd like that.
I just lived on the streets. I was homeless. I didn't have any money or anywhere to stay, so...
So you slept where?
Slept nowhere. I just slept in train stations, anywhere I could find a shelter.
And what did you eat?
I didn't eat for 4 weeks.
So you were in a pretty bad state at the end of that?
Yeah, I wasn't very well.
Now, if you hadn't been able to come here, what do you think would have happened to you in, say, a year's time?
A year's time, whether I was carrying the way I would have, the way I was, I reckon I would have either ended up in Nick or dead, most likely, the way I was going.
They need to have the motivation to change their current way of life and to look to the future. And that's what we try to do, is to help them not to look at what has happened in the past, but to try and look at today and what lies ahead for tomorrow.
This one is a bit frightening on paper. Malicious wounding, threatening behaviour, actual bodily harm, and threatening behaviour again. Quite a violent character.
Dragging his girlfriend by the neck and banging a beer tin in her face.
Seems a nice fella. He's never really had a job. He's been in prison twice. I think he might fit in. I think that's one we can look at, and look at the social
We have to be careful he wasn't too strong for the boys we've got here already, though. Anyway, you've got the 3 weeks assessment, so...
The farm is quite a big farm as far as Wales goes. We have about 50 acres of hillside farming, 130 pigs, 20 cows, 200 sheep, and the idea is for our lads to accept responsibility for one section of the farm. This means that the boy who is on the cows will get up without supervision at 5:30, do the milking, do the dealings with the milk marketing board, and make sure that the dairy measures up to their standards. The whole aim of this place is to find out what our lads can do and to teach them to do it well. Every one of them comes here with a very long criminal record, and my approach is, in the very beginning, I said to them, well, you've tried being a criminal, you're not much good at it, so unless you're going to learn to do it well, you may as well change your way of living. In many ways it is an open prison. In many ways it's more difficult than a prison where they're locked away, because our young men have to learn to take care of themselves, to think for themselves, and they have the privilege of limited freedom.
We've got quite a mixed bag of boys here. We always have, of course. Some are in for sort of violence, others for quite small offences. There was one boy who, in fact, had been interfering with young lads, and because the other boys knew it, they ostracised him. And our young lad, Andrew, he was then about 7, he felt so sorry for him that he went towards him all the more. And one particular day they were playing football opposite the bungalow, and I was trying to watch and appear not to, and all of a sudden 4 or 5 of the lads leapt over the fence and started playing football too. And I realised that they were as aware of the problem as I was. No, they didn't want to play football, they were doing it to protect Andrew.
I think I'm right in saying that for the majority of people that the House of Trees is more difficult than prison, because we don't think for you. You're not supervised all the time. You see, being here is learning to cope with responsibility. I mean, we have situations when eggs are flying through windows. And see, in a college or a university, one of the annoying things is that would be accepted as being perfectly high-spirited. But in a probation home, they'll have you for unruly behaviour, and they'll say, oh, he stole the eggs anyhow, Unfortunately, you just can't win in a place like this sometimes. Do you think I'm justified in blaming you sometimes?
Not really, because most times I do it, don't I?
Well, you're telling me. See, if you come in my bedroom and put toothpaste on my hair, I wouldn't be very happy, would I?
No.
I shouldn't imagine you'd go in Alan's bedroom and put it on his hair, would you?
Probably I would for a joke.
Would you take it as a joke, Alan?
No, I don't think I would, actually.
And what would you do?
I don't know, it depends. See, it would depend if I woke up and called him a or whatever, and then he started getting stroppy then I suppose it'd turn into a fight, but I wouldn't do it to someone unless I was prepared for that someone to get, like, really annoyed about it.
Tell me, Matt, have you ever felt like belting me?
2 times.
Why haven't you?
Because I know I'll end up inside again.
Success, as far as I'm concerned, is getting a young lad to discover what he can do, what he is and what he can be, and standing on his own 2 feet and achieving his full potential. At the official count-up that we did a couple of months ago, the success rate was just over 75%. People who don't get into trouble again in the first 3 years. I think it's significant to point out this is very much higher than people who have been in prison, than the prison rate.
You want some clean clothes for a bath? Want this suit?
There we are.
Hey, Alan, there's a white shirt for you.
Well, it's all right. I've got a new teeth coming.
You've got some new teeth?
You've
Well,
got to put a new one on because you're going for your new teeth today.
Nearly all the people that come in here are people who come off the road. Some have been here quite a while. Some have moved from hostels that have closed down and then found that they can't get in any other hostel, so they've come here. Quite a majority of men are ex-patients of mental hospitals, and others are just drifting around and wandering around. Some have made it their permanent home, have been here for 30 and 40 years, and have moved out of, as old hostels have closed down. Francis Street has become a second home to them because they don't seem to want to go into new hostels very often. I was in a proof school for 3 years, and I was in a detention centre for 3 years, and I went to prison for 6 years where a Salvation Army officer visited me, and he introduced me to a Salvation Army hostel where I became what we called in the army converted. The men can come in and talk to me, they feel free, they know my background, they understand me because I understand them. If they've come out of prison, I can say that, you know, okay, I've been that way myself, and they feel free to talk to me.
What sort of problems do they want to ask you about?
Well, how can they keep out of prison is one of the biggest problems, and in these days when a man can't find a job or work, which is very, very hard, and as we all know that idle hands can cause trouble, and they want to try and get back to their own family, and very often they talk to me about their family and ask me if I will write to their wives and see whether we can get a reconciliation, which is quite often done.
Yes, it is. I can just make it out. This is from South Shields. The standards railway SS number 3. £100 to the yard, that.
What are all these? What is it?
Cross sections of tramway rails, the cuttings.
How many
Saw
have you
them.
got?
Can't number them, but quite a lot of them.
So how did you get hold of them?
Well, I've been round, sawing them. Yeah, sawing pieces out.
Many of the men in this hostel have been given the opportunity of going to a new hostel, but doesn't want to move out of the old atmosphere of what they live in. If Francis Street wasn't here, it would be a very sad situation because a lot of these men would end up in the streets because nobody really understands them as they do in Francis Street.
What have you got to do to it? Put the wheels on and move them. Miss out.
People think that because a child's in a children's home, they're naughty children. They're not naughty children. What they are children who have had bad experiences in their young lives. It's what society's done to them, not what they have done to society. And so they are automatically thought of, because they're in a community home, in a children's home, as being different. The children come to us from a variety of backgrounds. Most will come from broken homes. Either the parents have split and one parent is unable to cope. Some will have been abandoned. Some of the children have come from pretty poor backgrounds, in the sense that there's low income within the family and all the problems that come with that. So they come with a multitude of problems. The atmosphere we're trying to create is that of a home, and I say home with a small h, not with a large h. A place where children can relax, a place where children can be themselves, a place where children can grow, both physically, mentally, spiritually, a place where they can feel security and warmth, and a place from which they can go, having had lots of good positive experiences, so they can go back into the world outside, and they can take their place in society, hopefully, as good citizens.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Maria. Happy birthday to you.
We can respond to a need immediately. We can change our pattern of work much more quickly than perhaps they could in a local authority home. And hopefully, because of the fact that we have this freedom, we can create a much more homely atmosphere.
Jesus, you help us to sleep, and you make us better, and make all the sick people better. Amen.
Oh, she cried, now I shall have a gingerbread boy of my own. Soon it was time for the little gingerbread boy to be baked. As the little old woman went to the oven, she heard some little cries of a voice.
When I first came, I worked in the kitchen and I washed dishes, and that was it.
So how come the progression to be playgroup organiser?
They never had anyone else, and to save them employing anyone else for this job that was qualified, they decided to give me a chance.
So in other words, if you hadn't come to the Salvation Army to do this job, you wouldn't have the prospects that you've got now?
Oh no, definitely not.
Who wants to make a little gingerbread boy? You want to make one? Do you want to make one? Right, okay.
We've had quite a few disturbed children, and children that the only way they get a bit of attention is a slap every so often, you know. Very disturbed.
What about the parents? Do they take much of an interest in them?
Not always. You get some who are very interested, but there's some that just couldn't care less, you know. You wonder why they've got children. They just don't seem to bother at all.
How long have you been here?
4 weeks.
And throughout all that time you've been looking for a house?
Uh-huh.
How's that search been going?
Slowly. It's as if we're battling against the system, battling against all odds. We've been over just, you know, about every other day, you know, keeping on at them, so, you know, finally they will give in and give us somewhere to live.
So is there any news of a house coming up soon?
Yeah, there should be. They told us last week that we should hear something this week about a house.
Well, the stress has been really high for especially David and Michelle. Jennifer seems to have reacted pretty well to the whole thing, and Sean has too. He's just his carefree self. But David has been wet in his bed, and Michelle has been throwing temper tantrums.
Bye-bye. Okay. Okay.
If you hadn't found Inverclyde, what other options would have been open to you?
The only other options open would have been Jericho House, where Dave and the boys would have went somewhere and me and the girls would have went to another place. It's been really important to keep the kids together because we've already been through so much change, you know, moving from the States to here and then from one school to another, and it's really been nice to keep us all together.
There's maybe about 300-400 people a night sleeping rough in Glasgow. The main reason is drink, alcohol or gambling. Before I was converted, I was an alcoholic myself, and I had, once I was converted, I managed to come off a drink through the help of the Lord and the Salvationists. I couldn't have done it otherwise. Some are running away for situations at home, some are running away for the police, you know, different situations. Some are running away from themselves. About 50% of them are social inadequate. They couldn't cope with homes or anything like that. They just can't look after themselves. They seem to have a terribly strong constitution. They scrounge in the bins for stuff to eat that, you know, that if you were to eat it, it would immediately turn you sick, and yet they drink stuff, hair lacquer for instance. It's a terrible substance, and yet they can take it and they can live the way they're doing. They've got constitutions like horses. The people we work with are unlovable to the most eyes. The general public would rather give someone 10 pence to get them away quick rather than speak to them.
The old rugged cross on a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross with the dearest and best, for a world of lost sinners was slain. And that means you and me.
Have you heard anything else for Blythe?
She was doing the market last week and she's got a new boyfriend. I don't know if it's just somebody she's with. She's still in Glasgow because she's got to care for the social worker and he's staying where is in Catford.
Run another blanket.
Just get a chance.
Are you going to take a chance to stay here tonight then?
Aye.
Well, tell me what, when I'm finishing about 2 o'clock, I'll come back and see you. And if the police have told you to shift, if they tell you to move, ask them for sorry to stay here about 2-ish. I'll have a real look in for it in your road home and see what's what then, okay? I'll just
I'll need to go up about 20 past 10 and go up Brenton anyway.
Right.
Go to get everyone, she take me there, school on Friday.
It's fine. Guess we got a prayer, Robert. Loving Heavenly Father, we ask you to be with Robert as he remains here this night. And we pray, Lord, that through this dark hour that you will be with him. We ask, Lord, that you keep him in safety for us in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, Robert, we'll see you later. I'll give you a shout about 2 o'clock-ish, okay? We'll see you later. Right. Good night, son. Yeah, Tommy, that's the police just getting drawn up there.
Okay, roger, mate. They're actually they normally sleep. And usually about 2 or 3 sleep on that canvas.
That room that you're living in is pretty miserable, isn't it? Very dark and cold. What's it like to live in there?
It's freezing, cold, not miserable.
Can you do anything to make it more comfortable?
No. But renovating it, you know. And you could come up with more and tell us to get out.
So how long have you two known each other?
3 years.
You've got a little boy, haven't you, the two of you? He's how old?
10 months.
And he's called?
Craig.
Craig. Now what's happened to Craig at the moment?
I mean, we don't need to sort of, do we need to get into our personal life?
You don't want to talk about
I don't
Craig?
want to talk about that.
What do you think about the Salvation Army people that you've met here?
I think they've been good to us.
Good to us.
So if it wasn't for people like them, what would your life be like? Would you have enough money to eat for a start?
No.
No.
We'd be starving some days a week.
Pray, Father, for a change in their lives. Ask that you give them a desire to once again pick themselves up. We know they've done it before and they can do it again. Be with them now, for we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Supposing they get a house and they do get their family back together again, could they ever make sense of their lives? Do you think they could stay off the booze?
It's possible, with help. You know, they would need help. I kind of see them doing it on their own. They would need all the help they can get from organisations like yourselves or whatever. But, you know, it would be much better if they would turn to the Lord for their help. They would get it then.
Salvation is a word with many different meanings. For someone too old to look after themselves, it could mean a place in a Salvation Army Eventide home. For someone awaiting trial, it could mean the reassuring surroundings of a Salvation Army bail unit instead of a prison cell. It could mean being cared for after a major disaster by a Salvation Army emergency team. But whatever the crisis, there's usually someone in desperate need of help